Hey everyone, and welcome to Easy English Talk. We're so glad you're here.
Thanks for joining us. Let's get started with today's topic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the English Learning Podcast, the place where you can improve your English step by step in a simple, clear, and enjoyable way, no matter where you are in your learning journey.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to have you here with us today. And if you are new to this podcast, we are really happy that you decided to join us because this is a safe and friendly space where you can learn English without stress and without fear.
Absolutely, Julia. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about something that many English learners struggle with, and that is how to speak English confidently, clearly, and naturally in real-life situations.
Yes, Jason, because many learners understand English when they listen or read, but when it comes to speaking, they feel nervous, they hesitate, and sometimes they just don't know what to say or how to say it.
That's right. And if you have ever felt shy, stuck, or afraid of making mistakes while speaking English, then don't worry, because you are not alone, and this episode is exactly for you.
In this episode, we are going to share simple but powerful tips that you can start using today to improve your speaking skills, build your confidence, and feel more comfortable when you speak English.
And the best part is that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know thousands of words. And you don't need to speak like a native speaker to communicate successfully.
Exactly, Jason. All you need is the right mindset, the right practice, and a little bit of courage to start speaking, even if it is not perfect at the beginning.
So, if you are ready to improve your English speaking skills and take your confidence to the next level, stay with us, because this episode is going to help you step by step.
Let's get started and learn how to speak English in a simple, natural, and confident way.
So, Julia, let's talk about something very real that almost every English learner experiences at some point. And that is the feeling that speaking English is much harder than reading, listening, or even writing.
Yes, Jason. And this is something we hear all the time from learners because many people say, I understand English when I listen and I can read quite well, but when I try to speak, my mind suddenly goes blank and I don't know what to say.
Exactly. And one of the biggest reasons for this problem is fear, especially the fear of making mistakes, because many learners worry that if they say something wrong, people will judge them or laugh at them.
That's true. And this fear can make learners feel nervous and uncomfortable, which stops them from speaking freely, even when they actually know the words they want to use.
Another important reason is lack of practice, because speaking is a skill, just like playing a sport or learning to drive. And if you don't practice it regularly, it becomes difficult to use it naturally.
Yes, and many learners spend a lot of time studying grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary, but they don't spend enough time actually speaking. So when they try to talk, it feels unfamiliar and difficult.
Also, many people try to think in their native language first, and then translate everything into English. And this process takes time and makes speaking slow and sometimes confusing.
Exactly. And when you are always translating in your mind, it becomes harder to speak naturally because your brain is doing too much work at the same time.
And finally, we should not forget about confidence, because even if you know enough English, if you don't believe in yourself, you may hesitate, stop, or avoid speaking completely.
That's right, Jason. So when we understand these challenges like fear, lack of practice, translation, and low confidence, it becomes easier for us to find solutions and improve step by step.
Now, Julia, let's talk about something very important that many learners misunderstand, And that is the idea of what it really means to speak English fluently, because a lot of people think fluency means speaking perfectly without any mistakes.
Yes, Jason. And this is one of the biggest myths in language learning, because the truth is that fluency is not about perfection. It is about being able to communicate your ideas clearly and confidently, even if you make small mistakes.
Exactly. And if you listen carefully to native speakers, you will notice that they also make mistakes sometimes. They pause, they repeat themselves, and they don't always speak in perfect grammar.
That's right. And what really matters is that they can express their thoughts naturally and keep the conversation going. And this is what learners should focus on instead of trying to be perfect all the time.
Another important truth is that you don't need to know thousands of difficult or advanced words to speak English well, because in everyday conversations, people usually use simple and common vocabulary.
Yes, and when you learn useful phrases and practice using them in real situations, you can speak more smoothly and confidently without feeling overwhelmed by too many new words.
Also, fluency comes with practice and time, not overnight, so it is important to be patient with yourself and understand that every small step you take is helping you improve.
Exactly, Jason. And instead of waiting until you feel ready or perfect, you should start speaking now, because speaking itself is what helps you become fluent.
So if you remember one thing from this part, let it be this. You don't need to be perfect to speak English. You just need to be brave enough to try and consistent enough to keep going.
And once you change your mindset and focus on communication instead of perfection, you will see that speaking English becomes easier, more natural, and much more enjoyable.
All right, Julia, now let's move to our first practical step. And this is something very powerful that can completely change the way you speak English. And that is learning how to think in English instead of always translating from your native language.
Yes, Jason, because as we mentioned earlier, when learners try to think in their own language first and then translate into English, it slows them down and makes speaking feel difficult and unnatural.
Exactly. And this is why thinking in English is so important, because it helps your brain become faster, more flexible, and more comfortable with the language over time.
But Jason, I think some learners might feel confused and ask, how can I think in English if I don't know many words yet?
That's a great question, Julia, and the answer is actually very simple. Because you don't need to start with complex sentences, you can begin with very small and easy thoughts in your daily life.
For example, when you wake up in the morning, you can say simple things in your mind like, I am waking up now, or I need to brush my teeth, or today I will study English, and these small thoughts can make a big difference.
Yes, and when you are walking, eating, or doing any daily activity, try to describe what you are doing in English in your mind, even if your sentences are not perfect, because the goal is practice, not perfection.
Another helpful idea is to name objects around you in English, like table, phone, door, or even make short sentences like, the door is open or my phone is on the table.
Exactly. And when you practice this every day, your brain slowly becomes used to thinking in English, and this makes it much easier to speak naturally without stopping to translate.
So remember, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to start small, stay consistent, and allow your mind to get comfortable with English step by step.
And over time, you will notice that your thoughts become faster, your sentences become smoother, and speaking English starts to feel more natural and less stressful. All right, Julia. Now that we understand the importance of thinking in English, let's move to the next step, which is very simple but extremely powerful, and that is practicing speaking English every single day.
Yes, Jason, and this is where many learners struggle because they often believe that they need a partner or a native speaker to practice with. But the truth is that you can start speaking even when you are alone.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to do this is by talking to yourself in English, which may feel a little strange at first, but it is actually a very effective way to build confidence and improve fluency.
For example, you can describe your day, talk about your plans, or even share your thoughts out loud by saying things like, "Today I studied English," or "I am going to watch a video," and this simple habit can help you a lot.
Another useful technique is to stand in front of a mirror and speak, because this allows you to see yourself, practice your pronunciation, and feel more comfortable expressing your ideas.
Yes, and you can also record your voice on your phone, listen to it, and notice where you can improve, which helps you become more aware of your speaking skills.
The key here is consistency, because even if you practice for just 10 to 15 minutes every day, it is much better than practicing for a long time once in a while.
That's right, Jason. So don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect partner. Just start speaking today, even if it is only for a few minutes, because daily practice is what builds real confidence.
All right, Julia, let's move to another very important step that can make a big difference in how quickly someone improves their speaking, and that is focusing on learning useful sentences instead of only memorizing individual words.
Yes, Jason, because many learners spend a lot of time learning long vocabulary lists, but when they try to speak, they don't know how to connect those words into natural and meaningful sentences.
Exactly. And this is why learning complete sentences or common phrases is much more helpful, because it teaches you how English is actually used in real conversations.
For example, instead of just learning the word hungry, you can learn a full sentence like, "I am feeling hungry right now," which is something you can use in real life immediately.
That's a great example, Julia. And another one could be learning phrases like, "Can you help me? Please?" Or "I don't understand. Could you repeat that?" Because these are very useful in everyday situations.
Yes, and when you learn sentences like these, your brain starts to remember patterns. So when you want to speak, you don't have to think too much about grammar because the structure is already familiar to you.
Also, learning sentences helps you speak faster and more smoothly, because instead of building a sentence word by word, you can use ready-made expressions that come to your mind naturally.
So, a good habit is to collect useful sentences from podcasts, videos, or conversations, and then practice saying them out loud until they feel comfortable and natural.
Exactly. And over time, these sentences will become part of your speaking, and you will notice that you can express yourself more easily and with more confidence. All right, Julia. Now let's talk about another powerful method that can really improve your speaking skills, and that is the technique called listening and repeating, also known as shadowing.
Yes, Jason, and this is one of the best ways to sound more natural in English because you are not only learning words, but you are also learning pronunciation, rhythm, and the natural flow of the language.
Exactly. And the idea is very simple. You listen to a short sentence from a podcast, video, or audio, and then you repeat it immediately, trying to copy the speaker as closely as possible.
For example, if you hear someone say, "I am really excited to learn English," you pause for a moment and repeat the same sentence with the same tone and pronunciation.
Yes, and at the beginning, it might feel a little difficult, but with practice, your ears become sharper, and your mouth becomes more comfortable producing the sounds.
Another helpful tip is to choose content that is easy and clear for your level, so you don't feel overwhelmed and you can repeat sentences with confidence.
You can also repeat the same sentence multiple times until you feel comfortable with it, because repetition is what helps your brain remember and improve.
And over time, you will notice that your pronunciation becomes better, your speaking becomes smoother, and you start to sound more like a natural English speaker.
So make this a daily habit, even if it's just for a few minutes, because listening and repeating is one of the fastest ways to improve your speaking skills. All right, Julia, now let's talk about something that stops many learners from speaking English, even when they actually know enough words. And that is the fear of making mistakes.
Yes, Jason, and this fear is very common because many learners think that if they make a mistake, people will judge them, laugh at them, or think that their English is not good.
That's true, but the reality is very different, because mistakes are a normal and necessary part of learning any language, and without making mistakes, it is almost impossible to improve.
Exactly, and even people who speak English very well today made many mistakes when they were learning, but they continued practicing and learning from those mistakes instead of being afraid of them.
Another important thing to remember is that most people are not focused on your mistakes. They are focused on understanding your message, so communication is more important than being perfect.
Yes, and when you allow yourself to make mistakes, you feel more relaxed, and this helps you speak more freely and confidently.
Also, every mistake is actually a learning opportunity because it shows you what you need to improve, and this helps you become better step by step.
So instead of thinking, I don't want to make mistakes, try to think, every mistake is helping me learn, and this small change in mindset can make a big difference.
Exactly. And the more you speak, the more mistakes you will correct, and the stronger your English will become over time.
So be brave, speak as much as you can, and remember that mistakes are not your enemy, they are your teacher.
All right, Julia. Now that we've shared the main steps to improve speaking, let's talk about something just as important, and that is staying motivated and building confidence during your English learning journey.
Yes, Jason, because learning a language takes time, and sometimes learners feel tired, discouraged, or even feel like they are not making progress, especially when they don't see quick results.
That's absolutely true. And this is why consistency is more important than perfection, because even small daily efforts, like practicing for a few minutes every day, can lead to big improvements over time.
Exactly. And one helpful tip is to set small and realistic goals, such as learning a few sentences each day or speaking for 10 minutes, because achieving these small goals can give you a sense of success and keep you motivated.
Another important thing is to celebrate your progress, even if it feels small, because every new word you learn and every sentence you speak is a step forward.
Yes, and try to remind yourself why you started learning English, whether it is for your studies, your career, or to communicate with people around the world, because your reason can give you strong motivation.
Also, it's important to be patient with yourself because learning a language is a journey, and progress does not happen overnight. But with time and effort, you will definitely improve.
And don't compare yourself to others, because everyone learns at a different speed, so focus on your own progress and keep moving forward step by step.
So stay consistent, stay positive, and believe in yourself, because confidence grows with practice. And the more you speak, the more confident you will become.
Exactly, and remember, every time you try, you are getting better, so keep going and never give up.
All right, Julia. As we come to the end of today's episode, Let's quickly summarize what we talked about, so our listeners can clearly remember the most important points.
Yes, Jason, today we learned that speaking English is not about being perfect, but about being confident and being able to express your ideas clearly, even if you make mistakes along the way.
We also discussed some powerful steps, like thinking in English in your daily life, practicing speaking every day even when you are alone, and focusing on learning useful sentences instead of only memorizing individual words.
And we talked about the importance of listening and repeating to improve pronunciation, as well as not being afraid of mistakes, because mistakes are a natural and important part of learning.
So if we can give one final piece of advice, it would be this. Speak as much as you can. Don't wait for perfection, and stay consistent, because improvement always comes with practice.
Exactly. And if you keep following these simple steps every day, you will slowly notice that your confidence grows, your speaking becomes smoother, and English starts to feel more natural for you.
So keep going, stay motivated, and believe in yourself.
You are doing great, and your English journey is just getting started.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the English Learning Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, then don't just listen and forget it. Take action today, because real improvement in English only happens when you actually practice what you learn.
Yes, Jason, and we really want to encourage you to choose just one small step from today's lesson, maybe thinking in English for a few minutes, or practicing speaking out loud by yourself, or repeating useful sentences, and start doing it today, not tomorrow.
And if you want to improve faster, make this podcast part of your daily routine, because listening regularly and practicing consistently will slowly build your confidence and fluency in a natural way.
Also, don't forget to support the channel by subscribing and sharing this podcast with your friends who are also learning English, because learning together makes the journey easier and more enjoyable.
And we would love to hear from you, so leave a comment and tell us what your biggest challenge in speaking English is, or which tip you are going to start using first.
Yes, and remember, you are not alone in this journey. We are here to help you every step of the way.
Keep learning, keep practicing, and we will see you in the next episode.